Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mic'd Avengers podcast, where we focus on martial arts and action cinema, but definitely delve into much more. My name is Jason from Martial Arts Theater 3000. I've been a lifelong fan of martial arts movies from Bruce Lee to the Venom Mob, Bruceploitation, and everything in between.
My name's Dragon, aka the Fanatical Dragon on YouTube. I also write the Blu-ray reviews for Eastern Heroes magazine right here in the UK. I'm about 4 decades into this love affair with East Asian cinema, specifically action cinema. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan and the Shaw brothers got me into Hong Kong films, but unlike my buddy Jason, I've seen a whole bunch of Japanese, Indonesian and South Korean action flicks too. So over the coming episodes, every so often, we're going to force feed him something he has not seen.
And I'm Shaun, also known as Food for Thought. It all started for me at the tender age of 14, where I discovered Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. From there, I kind of delved into old school Kung Fu, and that has been my passion for 30 plus years now. I also started delving into all realms of Asian cinema, and I'm very happy to say that these days I have a pretty strong passion for kind of dark Korean thrillers. If you like what you hear and you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. All right, let's hop to it. This is the first episode of the Mic'd Avengers podcast. We hope you enjoy.
Greetings once again, true believers. Fanatical Dragon back once again, and today delighted to be joined by two of my favourite people on the planet, Shaun from Food for Thought and Jason from Martial Arts Theater 3000, for our Halloween spooktacular. Kinda. We wanted to do another one of these. Oh, sweet.
Nice.
I was going to bring it up later, but
regardless of what month we were going to be in, right? We wanted to get together again because we had such a blast doing the Bruceploitation chat, had such a blast doing the Dirty Ho chat that we wanted to do it again. And Shaun, I think it was you that had said, let's try and maybe find something a little bit spooky Halloween themed.
Yeah.
And we decided upon, I'm sure that everybody who's seen the thumbnail for this already knows, but we're doing Human Lanterns. Sun Chung's Human Lanterns. We probably all watched the 88 Films version.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have the slipcase, unfortunately. They how 88, that series got really rare. But this one was on Amazon. I was like, cool. I grabbed it. It just didn't have the slipcase. It was only like $20. So
did you get the poster inside?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
I have it in my room here. I could grab it, but no, it doesn't have the poster or the booklet. No, just the disc. Of course, the flip side cover. With the original poster, but no slip. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're putting it on Amazon a little bit or something. I don't know.
I don't know. We can get into that towards the end because there's definitely been a wee bit of a shift in the more recent releases are devoid of any extras, and this was still a time when they were jam packing quite a lot of extras on here. But the back of the box, for those that I'm assuming if you're watching the stream, you've seen Human Lanterns, but the back of the box tells us, amidst a long-held rivalry between two distinguished gentlemen is an unbalanced and aggrieved craftsman of lanterns who seeks bloody retribution. Featuring the Shaw brothers' custom brand of martial arts mayhem, Human Lanterns also tags into the craze for the American slasher film and the earlier Hammer horrors by providing a grisly take on the serial killer feature help me out, guys, in an inimitable Hong Kong style.
Inimitable?
Jesus Christ, I can barely speak. Welcome to being from Scotland, right? The IMDb has I think tries to be like super smart with its little 2-line synopsis and says a psychotic craftsman pits two rival kung fu masters against each other whilst designing special lanterns from a disturbing source. As if we don't fucking know.
It's called Human Lanterns.
The clue is kind of in the title, right?
Spoiler alert, yeah.
Which I think is a shame. I think is a legitimate shame because going in, if you didn't know that it was called Human Lanterns, it would be maybe a slight twist at least, or a bit of a shocking moment that
it should be called the Lantern, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah,
it was just called the Lantern.
Yeah.
But, and I should check and see because I think the original Hong Kong title was different, but I think it's still almost the same. I think it's just human skin lanterns.
Yeah, okay. We're giving it away even more.
Yeah, literally, right.
I do like that the description on the 88 films calls them distinguished gentlemen when they're both complete assholes. They're not gentlemen at all. They're absolute nightmares. And
I also don't think it's a class war because they both seem pretty rich. It's just that Chen Quan Tai seems richer, right? So
But there's something endearing and charming about him for some reason. You know what I mean? like they're assholes, but it's nuanced.
Yeah,
completely.
You know,
And so our two distinguished gentlemen that we're talking about is Chen Kuan-tai, the legend Chen Kuan-tai, and Lau Wing. And Lau Wing, guy who I'm not as familiar with. I've seen a bunch of his movies, but he's usually the villain, right?
I think he one of the leads in Bastard Swordsman, or am I completely wrong?
He did do a bunch with Norman Chu.
Where I know him from, and only to be honest, from his interview on there, is he is that main bratty son in Big Boss.
Yes.
He's the Big Boss's son, and he looks, I mean, obviously 12 years younger. But he's the main guy in the tucked in, like, whatever, polyester shirt.
And Shaun, you're definitely right. He is indeed in Bastard Swordsman and Return of the Bastard Swordsman, though he's not the main dude, because Norman Choi is the main. Norman Choi is the Bastard Swordsman himself. But I think he's in both. And Secret Service of the Imperial Court, which is another banger. Spirit of the Sword, Jewel of the Century, Bloody Parrot, God, loads. I think he jumped back and forth, and there's, like Jason, like you said, that interview with him on the disc is fantastic. Yeah, I think that's not one of Frederick Amberzine's. That's from Arnaud Lanuc, who I think is also French but permanently based in Hong Kong. So I'm seeing him doing more and more special features for releases as we kind of go on. Maybe not quite as slickly put together as some of the Frederick Amberzine ones. Frederick Amberzine's interview with Susan Shaw that's on there is also a belter. All the extras in that disc are really good. So I think
which one did you mention there? Yeah, I'd like to talk about that, even if at the end. I didn't watch the very end of what's his name again? Andy Lau? Is that it? I'm sorry, I said not Andy Lau.
Lau Wing.
Lau Wing. I should have said not Andy Lau.
And I got confused between like the actor and the guy who made the video.
Tony Liu.
Yes, that's his American name.
Yes, American name. Okay, yeah.
And
but I will say it's funny. Like his is like a sophisticated getting into movies thing. The girls are just talking about how they wanted me to get nude. They want me to get nude. They want me. I think Linda Chu talked about them wanting to get nude. I was like, man, times have changed. That sounds borderline like
harassment.
I mean, she's like, oh yeah, he was my mentor months and months on end. He just wanted me to get nude in his films. I was like, oh okay.
I think nobody was having it. From the sounds of it, the overall perspective that I got from all of the interviews was no one was having fun on a Sun Chung set, right? He sounds like quite a taskmaster. At one point someone said that he gets so carried away he would end up getting himself in shot a whole bunch of times, and he'd have to reshoot that take, and a lot of the takes were kind of like loads of prosthetics, so a lot of setup and prosthetics.
You know what vibe I'm getting from him? In the aesthetics we can get into, and the way he sounds on thing is Stanley Kubrick, because I can see because Stanley Kubrick was notorious, like the behind the scenes footage of The Shining and that. But the obsession with each frame, I can see that in Sun Chung. This is not like my God, the attention to details. This is like, I don't know. It's like what's the guy that did the puppets for Jim Henson or whatever? I mean, this is like practical. I could not believe watching this how detailed each shot was, the framing, the lighting.
Jason, this was your first time watching the movie, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Do you want me to tell you my overall initial impression?
I would love to, because we've both seen it a bunch. I think Shaun, you've seen it a few times, didn't you?
I when it comes to musicals and the horror of Shaw Brothers, I've not seen much at all for whatever reason. I want to pull it back a little bit, but why I put on the governor, I got to tell you, watching this, I couldn't help but think this is like the best thing I've ever seen. Honestly, like watching this, I could not, my internal dialogue and how I felt, I think it might be like the best Shaw Brothers movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
And like,
dude.
No, I'm saying it. No, and I want to be like, I don't want to have a lot of hyperbole or be like, there's a guy in Howard Stern's show named Richard, and everything's his favorite. I'm not like that, but I was like, damn, I got to tell these guys, this is like, I can't even get past. Like, I mean, Chang Che and Lau Kar-Leung are like all of ours. They're like my two train tracks for Shaw Brothers, and that's all I would watch. But you come to know, like, the later period, Lau Kar-Leung's really ramped up. The later period, Chang Che is more stripped down. Like I've talked about the Two Champions of Shaolin, how I remember renting that when I was watching a ton of Bruceploitation. And I was so used to the like ragtag, grab a camera, shaky, like they're in some gravel pit. Like you don't know what's coming next. you can rely on Chang-Chi, especially in the Venoms, it's going to be very static. And like Dragon said, they really carried it a lot because he was getting older and not as hungry. I remember when I rented Two Champions of Shaolin, I was starving for some Shaw Brothers because it wasn't on TV at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm back home. I'm back in this Shaw Brothers set. I was like 11 years old. But it also felt very barren. And like, I was like, if you watch Two Champions of Shaolin, there's just everything is so open and the actors fill it in. But if there's kind of just two of them talking, I don't know, it's just very barren, not a lot of stuff in the background. So when you get to Sun Chung, I sometimes get a feeling I'm going to get that same feeling. I mean, the opening thing, it felt like a wuxia film of Tony Liu doing his sword play on that little deck. There's like a, I don't know, like a lantern, a different type of lantern, like a flame, whatever, off to the side. And I just knew this guy is framing every shot. And the colors were so amazing. The acting was so amazing. I just was so blown away. I don't know. It just felt like it had that it factor, like almost Steven Spielberg-esque. Like there's some masterful things there. And like I've seen Avenging Eagle, and now I'm seeing, okay, this guy likes horses a lot. He likes slow-mo a lot.
But he likes dolly shots. Lots of dolly shots in this. Yes. I will say this: his dolly shots are perfectly crafted. They're wonderful. They're not just thrown in there. They add something awesome to the film. I really appreciate them.
Yeah, apparently he was a lot more hands-on with the choreography as well. I think. I think the Kubrick analogy is one that I didn't immediately see, but I think that's actually really good. And I think I'm so stoked hearing that you had that reaction to it, man, because I think
blown away.
There's a bunch of I've seen a lot of Shaw Brothers horror movies, and because I bought literally every single one of those 88 Shaw's films, and a bunch of them are like just pure straight up horror, and 90% of them I watched once when I got it, and I will probably never go back to again, because even some of the ones that get held in really high regard, like I don't rate Boxer's Omen very much at all. I don't enjoy watching Boxer's Omen. I think.
Oh, I have seen part of that. That has Sammo Hung in it, or no? That has it has not Sammo Hung. I'm sorry. I was mixing. There is a scene inside of a boxing ring. I was mixing that with Game of Death. I was mixing that with Game of Death of the boxing ring. I have seen parts of Boxer's Omen, but I have not. Isn't there like a really violent scene around that boxing ring, like something in the locker room? Quite aggressive, really annoying soundtrack in places too, where it's kind of like just using sound almost like as an extra element to torture you with. But a lot of the pure straight horror movies, even the ones with a lot of practical effects, are just not that good either, because the effects aren't that good, or the story's a bit schlocky, or there's sometimes they all have a little bit of nudity in them, but it often feels like really the only time there's slow-mo in the whole movie is when someone's running up the beach and it's just like tits bouncing around, right? There's a lot of that in one of the Black Magics, I think, or there's one when they end up in Thailand when someone gets cursed. But they're for the most part, the ones that are just pure straight horror, even when they've got actors that I would recognize from the martial arts pictures, they were just never quite my flavor, because I'm not a big horror guy either, really, that much, right? I've seen all the big kind of heavy hitter US horror movies that everybody has, but it's not my kind of go-to. My wife hates. I will say I love horror, but just a Shaw Brothers horror for some reason I just wasn't as drawn to. And I just learned recently, Shaun. Okay, not missing much. But I recently learned, Shaun, you're like a horror head. You said even more than martial arts. Wow.
Yeah. So horror was my first ever genre that I got into as a teen. I started early with, basically my mum showed me Nightmare on Elm Street when I was super young. I just fell in love with horror. And during my early teenage years, I just spent them. So a lot of, I hope everyone knows out there that there was the Video Nasties list in the UK, which resulted in a bunch of banned horror films. And in my early teens, it was my job and my quest to bring in films like Cannibal Holocaust and, the crazy House by the Cemetery and all the violent
I've seen
films.
That Cannibal Holocaust is messed up. Wow.
Oh, it's beyond.
It's with that log. That log, they kill him with the log in the mouth. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, that was messed up.
So I started getting those. And then it wasn't until later on where I discovered Drunken Master, where I fell in love with martial arts. Now, these days, I kind of balance, or I shouldn't say martial arts, I balance Hong Kong cinema or Asian cinema with horror. But I definitely watch a lot of horror these days. And because there seems to be more releases of mainstream horror, like US horror, I tend to watch more of those, and then I pick up the Asian cinema releases and watch them as well. So I don't know, horror and Asian cinema has kind of been a nice balance for me.
And I think this movie is I'm glad you said the word balance. This is working so well because I think it's like one of the Shaw's movies that does have one toe in horror, but it's still definitely very much a kung fu flick. It's still definitely got a bunch of really incredibly well staged, really beautifully kind of executed and performed, and quite a bit more biting teeth to some of the choreography. Where I think one of the people says on one of the interviews that Sung Chung was happiest when he was seeing people kind of suffer on screen, right? He was that Kubrick element, right? He wanted to see the emotion of it all. So a lot of the choreography he was pushing for, and there's a few shots in there where they just do some stuff that you don't often see. There's one point when the Tai Chi sword that Lai Wing's using literally slides up inside Chen Quan Tai's coat and kind of cuts out from it. It's like really fucking close.
One of the first cuts he gets on him, right? Or something. Yeah.
And I think he does kind of push it into sort of places where it's a bit more grounded, even though sometimes they're doing fantastical stuff in terms of the jumps and the acrobatics of it all we'll get to, because I think like Yuen Wah is listed in the credits and quite prominently in the first few credits that come up, but on the Hong Kong movie database he just says he plays like a background constable. I suspect anytime we see Lole with the mask and the Chewbacca hands and the Chewbacca feet, I think that that's probably more than likely Yuen Wah. Because
that's funny you said that because now Lole sometimes in his films you've seen some. It's weird. He's kind of like sometimes he looks really great in the choreography. Sometimes he seems more like David Chang-esque, where his martial arts aren't as amazing.
He can look clunky. He can look clunky every so often.
I think the people or the director and the actors you're with can bring it up. They can like bring his quality up, I mean, he's great, but like when he's Pai Mei, oh my God, it's awesome. But that's more like, kind of stilted, like majestic. But what I was saying is when he took his mask off in his lair and was moving, it looked identical. So I thought maybe it was him because like he was really good, like when he took it off. Like I thought like when he was fighting the Tan's hunting sister or the hunter. When he was fighting her and his mask, oh my God, when his mask came off, he was like laughing. I was like, oh, he's moving pretty close to that, but maybe it was Yuen Wah.
Yeah, I think especially when he did the movements on the trees, where he's kind of jumping off the trees. Must have been Yuen Wah.
Monkey style and stuff.
yeah. But his movements, it's funny. So in theory, he could have just like Jason Voorhees stepped out in just this costume with the mask and been kind of creepy. His movements in the film add such a bizarre, creepy element that I understand how some people might watch this film and see his movements and kind of maybe laugh at it. But if you really think about it, imagine him popping out in front of you doing those movements. That's terrifying. Yeah, and I think there's if you focus on the horror of this film and kind of let it sink in, it's a pretty grim horror. There are some really shocking aspects to it. The whole scene where he takes the skin off the girl, or multiple scenes where he takes the skin off the girl, terrifying and surprisingly pretty gory.
Yeah, no, I know. Really well done. Like in terms of
very well done.
Literally, kind of because we are getting to the point where you're seeing, and I can't remember who it was that said, but there was a sequence that they shot but ended up not being able to use, where he did a wide shot of an entire body being flayed of skin, and it was like.
Well, I listened to not the whole thing, but I listened to the commentary, and I gave those guys a shout out on Podcast on Fire yesterday. I thought that was impressive on Facebook page. That they did a really good job.
They did.
But they summed up that there's the UK and the US versions based off the UK, which was missing part of the skinning scene. But I guess this was supposed to be intact, unless you heard there was like another one. But what I thought was interesting is when you're watching it, when you're watching it get ripped, did you notice it cuts to like a worse quality when it's ripping off? Like the colors all change for a little bit. It seemed like an inserted scene from a different frame. Like when Linda Chu's first getting ripped, watch it's ripping, and then it changes to like a different real color for a while, and then it goes back. And when they said that, I was like, that seems inserted maybe from a different. But you think it would be remastered all the same, but maybe it was pulled out of. But it might have been pulled out of the reel, and they had to like get another reel to insert it, like kind of like how Michael Wirth had to do. Yeah.
But I didn't notice the shift, but I think, and I've seen it quite a few times. That didn't jump out at me, but this was the first time, because I knew we were doing this, that I really probably dived into the extras, and so it was hearing her speak about there being an extra thing they'd shot. But I kind of got the sense that just never even made it into the original cut. It wasn't like it came out and then it got cut from the movie. Like it just didn't, left on the editing room floor.
Yeah, no, the commentary said like there's the master reel, and then the UK cut that, and then the US used the UK reel. So they were implying this 88 films had everything restored back in. And that's why when you saw that rip and it changed to a different reel color just for about 5 seconds, in my head I said, oh, maybe that's like, I don't know, maybe that's more damage or whatever, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't preserved or... Yeah,
I maybe, but I always kind of viewed it from what they were saying in the interview that there was like a sort of more nudity shot, because there's sort of fleeting nudity at like quite early on with one of the girls,
right?
Yeah, but after that, I think everything's kept kind of
it might have been I wanted to say that. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that Linda Chu. That's like the Shaw Brothers effect. Horror movies do this sometimes, but I thought it was impressive how set up Linda Chu was, you know, like as like they were dueling for her and everything. And then when that blade was coming on her head, I was like, oh my God, they're killing her already. And I was like, but that's cool, because that's Shaw Brothers thing. That's the magic of Shaw Brothers. When Guok Choi dies so much and everything, as much as you love him, you don't know who's going to die. Sun Chen, the hero. Like that's what's so great about it. It's like it's definitely different with the Chinese culture. You know, you're never going to see Sylvester Stallone die in the movie, and and in horror movies, sometimes the main girl, like I don't know, if you're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel and she's on the main thing, she's not going to be the first kill. You know that. Right. There might be. I'm talking about the remake. You know what I mean? Because but like, you know, like that's what I thought was cool about. I was like, oh wow, it just had like I was being jerked around in a good way. I was like, oh my God, the girl they're pining over, you know. And another thing in the commentaries, they referred to Linda Chu as Chen Kuan-tai's wife, but I think that's incorrect. Like he did say he would marry her.
I think she is, because I think she calls him master in the subs, which is maybe what makes it a little bit confusing. But I think that the deal was that she was her character was the one, because her character's name is, let me get the character names up. I think she is, oh God, I can't even see here.
I have some of the names. Well, I got to say, while you're looking it up, Sun Chen Sergeant Poon is the funniest name for a club. I mean, gosh, that's like a porno plot of her, Sergeant Poon. I mean, I don't know how that slipped through.
What's Linda Chu's other name? Because I think they've got her.
I made myself a little note thing, but I don't have her. I have her Yen Chu. Is that her Chinese name?
So she's Choi Sung.
Cho Sung Wan. Yeah, I do have that written.
Yeah. I think she is meant to be playing, like, she was definitely the kind of the source of the original grievance, because obviously, as clearly spoilers we kind of find out that Lole's instigated all of this because he was beaten in a duel many years previous, a duel for the heart of her character, essentially. And so ultimately, because he lost the duel and got scrapped, he couldn't look up in the martial world, and she ultimately ended up going off with him and marrying him.
But the only thing that made me question that is whenever she's like talking to him, that big blown up fight they have in the brothel, she says, oh, well, will you redeem me as your concubine? She said, because Master Tan, he said he will marry me. That's what she said in that girl. Oh, wait, hold on. That's a different girl.
There's like a kind of like super expensive prostitute that comes to the brothel. Yeah. And they're both are two guys.
Well, the one that walked in, when he walks her in, that's not Linda Chu?
No,
when he walks her into
the one that offers him tea, and he's like, "I'm not drinking tea from you.
I'm not drinking your polluted tea."
Yeah.
I think. Wait, but that's Chen Kuan-tai's wife. You're saying?
I think so. Because that's Tanny Tian-Ni's character. I think.
Well, I thought the first girl that gets killed, and the one he's arguing with in the brothel, and the one that what I know what you would call him, the monkey skeleton. Whenever Lole kills the first girl, takes her away, isn't that Linda Chu?
No.
That's not Linda Chu.
I think that's Tanny Tian-Ni. I think that's the prostitute character, and the kind of the last.
Okay, so the girl in the interview in the extras is not the first girl to die in the cuts.
No.
But I thought she was saying she was being told to scream worse.
Yeah.
That is her. It is her.
It is.
Yeah.
That's in the interview at Susan Shaw, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's two interviews. There's one.
There's two.
Oh, I didn't see the other one. Sorry.
And
as far as I know, all I was saying is I thought they walk Linda Chu in, right, and then they go back to the brothel and they whisper and they say, "Oh, she's with Master. She's with, I'm gonna say his name, Chen Quan Tai, but she's also seeing Tony Lu's character." So later it shows them arguing with, I thought was Linda Chu, and he's saying, "Oh, you can be with anyone, but you're not going to be with him." And she's saying, "Well, he said he'll marry me." And then she goes into the bath, and then Lole's character comes and gets her, and she's the first kill. That's in my mind. I thought that was all Linda Chu is that character. No. Okay.
I think that's Tanny Tien Ni. I think Susan Shaw speaks about Human Lanterns because it's been used on the Human Lanterns disc, but she's got a quite small part in Human Lanterns.
Oh, okay.
And I think she's just literally one of the other girls in the brothel. I don't think she does any nudity in Human Lanterns. I don't think she's one of the girls that gets killed. I just think she had a small part in it. She's included, I think, because Frederick Ambazine had interviewed her and specifically asked her about.
Oh, the first girl. But Linda Chu, remember she said she had to scream louder?
Yes.
Okay, so which kill was that?
She does the last one. I think she's the final kill.
The comment section will correct us. The comment section will steer us
correct.
No,
the final kill is Tony Lu's wife, because she's the one that almost makes it to the end. You think she survives because Tony Lu,
that's who we were talking about.
No, I'm talking about Chen Quan Tai's wife. Yes.
Shit, okay, sorry. No, fuck. I don't think he's married.
No. Okay, here's why it's a confusion. Okay, so there's oh my god. Okay, so there's the prostitute that's brought in, right? Yes. And the girl's whispering. One of those is Susan Shaw. She's briefly in it. Susan Shaw she says to the other girl, "Oh, that's Chen Quan Tai's wife." I can't remember their names. I'll just say the actors' names, offhand.
Yeah.
Chen Quan Tai's wife, or not wife, Chen Quan Tai's girl, quote unquote, but she's also seeing Tony Lu. They're both seeing her. So they both jump down on the fans. That's Linda Chu. And then she argues with, I swear that's Linda Chu. They walk in. And then she argues with Tony Lu because he's seeing her too. Tony Lu has a wife, but he also goes to the brothel and he's trying to be with Linda Chu. And she says,
the big question here is who plays the prostitute. That's what we're trying to work out. Who plays?
Well, she's like the queen. I'm almost positive it's a queen prostitute, and they get in that loud argument. And what she says to him is, "Will you redeem me as your concubine?" And Tony Lu says, she says to him, because Chen Quan Tai's character, Tan Fu, he will marry me. And he goes, "Oh, well, you could be with anyone. Don't choose him." And they're arguing. Everyone's listening. But whenever I swore when Kenneth and Phil from Podcast on Fire were talking, they referred to her as Tan's wife, which was confusing because she was saying he will marry me. That's all I was saying. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a straightaway. They bring her in. She's taken the bath. She gets kidnapped, and she's the first to get killed. Is the second girl in the interview Linda Chu? That's what I think.
Huh. We might need the comment section for this.
We'll look it up. We'll look it up.
I thought that there was the other way around, but let me see if I can get.
I do know Tony Lu's wife gets taken last because first Chen Quan Tai's the woman gets taken. Or no, sorry, there's three girls. There's the hunter girl who's Tan's sister. Then there's the Linda Chu, who is like the queen brothel.
I think you're right. I think I'm totally wrong. I think Tanny Tien Ni is Lung's wife. So she's the last kill. It's me. I've got it totally wrong.
No, it's
you're
all
right.
good.
Linda Chu is the first kill.
Right, which gave a big effect. We brought it back around. We
got there in the end.
I've seen this movie a bunch of times too. I'm quite embarrassed that I didn't notice because I think it's sometimes hard, particularly at that era, where the actresses they were often styled alarmingly similar to each other.
I thought, particularly in this film, I thought that the three girls in this film, they were very, very similar looking. And I wondered whether it was they're meant to be because Lole has a type. They looked very similar.
And I think also because he wanted them to experience what he'd gone through. So I think he was trying to get them into a situation where they're battling each other. And so I've definitely the woman had to look like like the Linda Chu's character had to look like the wife that he ultimately lost out to. So I think it probably is a conscious choice, and it's not that we are being one of those dudes that just thinks everybody looks the same, right?
Of course,
no.
No, but they're all the garb of the time or whatever you want to call it. It's all very, very similar. They're dressed up, very. Especially the brothel girls are always like in the same type of. You know. Well, let me ask you off the jump. So, like, bringing it back to you guys, what is Dragon? You go from. What is your overall take? Rewatching it, where does this sit for Shaw Brothers for you?
Way high on the horror side. And I think maybe pretty high up in my Sun Chung movies that I've seen so far. I think Avenging Eagle was probably the first one that I saw. I only recently had a chance to properly see To Kill a Mastermind because of that 88 Films release. I'd seen it before, but never with subs, and I had no clue what was going on in the movie at all, but knew that the action was pretty good, but it was a really bad, like not even a 480p digital file I had. It was maybe like a 180p postage stamp size. As soon as you tried to make it bigger, it was just fell apart.
Wow.
And To Kill a Mastermind, I think, maybe jumped into top position for me, just because it's so Five Venomy in its intrigue. Where there's a great kind of underlying secret organization, and we can chat about To Kill a Mastermind another day. But I think Human Lanterns is pretty up there, and pretty up there in terms of Lolay movies for me too, because I think he gives a great performance in it. I think the stuff when he's unmasked is really strong, and I really like the way that they've just a lot going on here. Like you say, it's a very dense frame, and I think the cinematography really good, but particularly just the little things that they're so consistent with, where they've clearly managed to hit like a light with probably some sort of gel over the top, like a blue light on the front of that mask. So it's almost kind of glowing a little bit.
Yeah.
And it almost has this sort of phosphorescent feel to it that works really well. And there's kind of when he's creeping into, I can't remember which girl he's going after, but it's quite early on. One of the first times you see him out and about in the mask, and you see him up in the rafters, and you just see this the face.
It looks awesome.
And there's a shot where he's just being chased by the camera. So you're kind of like,
and he's doing all those little hand things. He's doing those little hand movements, and he
and it opens up the bead. And they do that kind of Hitchcock thing where basically they show you the bomb first, so you know what's coming at that point, right? So you're ahead of the girl, and it becomes more like introducing suspense that way, where they're letting you in on making you complicit to what's about to happen in a way. So that is a great little kind of storytelling device to kind of put you over the shoulder of the kind of the villainous character in that moment, rather than you being with the girl and then when she's surprised, you're surprised, which is what you normally see more often.
Exactly, like Scary Movie with Drew Barrymore on the phone. You're always like on that side of things. But I did want to say, like in Shaun, you kind of touched on this. There is an element, like I think this is inspired by Leatherface and inspired by Michael Myers. There is an element when they use a mask that's not like designed to be so scary. It's kind of like he just puts on how it's going to look, and it is kind of funny when you first see it, but it's always like slightly funny, but it makes it almost more scary. I don't know how to explain it, like because you can have this real practical like Freddy Krueger like thing, you know what I mean, but this is almost like it does feel kind of like a mask, you know, like intentionally. It's not supposed like, because they could have had like a real skull or something like that. This is supposed to be kind of
and
like
sometimes they did. There's like there's a resurrected skeleton of a guy's dead girlfriend in Seeding of a Ghost that's really gnarly. It's practically done quite well, but it feels more almost like stop motion, where it is literally a body kind of resurrecting from the dead, bones first, right? And it's weird and unnerving and a bit more kind of like icky than this. This kind of always felt on the right side of just kind of being impactful. And I still think it's, at the time, I think it was probably pretty scary for people in the sense of when you're kind of first seeing him. But it relies less on jump scares than you would maybe normally have in this sort of movie, because so much of it is making you semi-sympathetic to Lolay. Like, although he's doing all this,
that's the magic of it. And it's the weird thing about it is like, that you hit a nail on the head. The Lolay aspect, you normally don't have that. Like with Halloween, and Shaun knows this, whenever Rob Zombie, he tried to put more of a backstory into Michael Myers, you know, like him being bullied and stuff. And that really brings it up a notch. It makes it way more nuanced. Like if you can sympathize a little bit, it's like, wait, what's going on in your mind? This really did it well. Like in a weird way, you could, like Lo Lei, yeah, he's the anti-hero. I don't know if that's the right word. He's the villain, of course, but he kind of seems like a hero because he's like the Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. He wants to break down all the like hierarchies and all the like rich, he hates that, but he also has been like directly like his life has been completely ruined, by Tony Liu. So there's so many elements going on. I think this is Lo Lei's. I got to be careful that everything's the best, but I think it's like his best performance outside of Pai Mei. I don't know.
What I mean? King Boxer's pretty strong too, but King Boxer was very King Boxer very early, right? And a very different style of directing, and he's more like the stoic hero King Boxer,
which is rare, yeah.
And by the nature of those sort of characters, I mean, it's such a kind of an oft-seen trope where in those sort of movies they're generally made much more alive by the villain they're going up against. Like Batman's the best example. It's like Batman on his own is not that dynamically exciting a character. He's sort of defined by this incredible roster of villains around him because he's just a normal guy with no powers and he's just got money, and that would normally be something pretty despicable and hateable. Like, who wants to root for a millionaire that can? But it's the fact that he has sort of determination as his superpower. But Batman,
well, that's the guy that becomes the villain. That's the guy that normally will become the villain, the like asshole rich guy or something.
Yeah,
he has all this money. But good point.
But I think, but this time, and certainly we saw Lo Lei playing villains a lot more. But usually in that, again, even when he's being Pa Mei, I think it would almost be like if we were seeing executioners from Shaolin, but from Pa Mei's perspective in what we were getting in Human Language.
Exactly.
Like if half of the movie, because at the end, I was genuinely pretty bummed when he died. Like, and the fact that they kind of all had to team up against him to take him down was what you normally see the other way around. Like, it's normally like the hero's got to go up against multiple guys at the end and fight his way to the top of the tower by getting through all the people together, rather than it being a case of like the villain is only being able to be taken down by everyone together. And even then, there was a beat at the end. There was a beat after the fire, like after, because you kind of watch Sun Chen watching them both on fire. I did wonder if at the end he hadn't been making lanterns; he'd been making a really good Tony Liu mask, and really it was Lo Lei, like Mission Impossible style underneath there. I was kind of hoping for that, right?
Yeah,
we never got that beat at the end, but I think it's definitely kind of one of his better, stronger performances.
I saw that coming though, that Chen Quan Tai, I saw they would pair up. I could see that as like predictable for some reason. What I did not predict is when they were fighting Tony Liu and Chen Quan Tai, when Lo Lei appeared up at the top there and killed Chen Quan Tai. That was beautiful. I mean, I don't know what, like, because part of me didn't quite understand why Lo Lei was going after Chen Quan Tai too. They confronted him and he said, because I wanted you two to battle each other. So I understand him creating the friction, but him just like murdering Chan. That's when I realized, okay, this isn't just about Tony Liu specific. This is like him against the world because he's in the rich world. He wanted to see it all burn. But it's not just that simple. There's something going on there. Like, it's magical. But when those two, I could tell that for some reason I knew Chen Quan Tai and him were going to realize they were both being played and they were going to pair up. And I thought it worked great. That Lo Lei character, though, I think it would have been cool if he lived and did some sequels, but that's too cliche for horror movies, right? If there was like 5 Human Lanterns or something,
They did it with the other ones. They did it with Black Magic quite a bit, and the Black Magic movie I don't think necessarily warranted getting a Hex. Also got a few sequels, and the first Hex is amazing, but the second Hex after Hex not so much so, and they sort of often descended, just the ones that made money, they kept on trying to milk a bit more. But I kind of get the sense they probably couldn't have done that with Sun Cheng. I don't think he would have been up for it. I think he was one of these dudes where each one of his movies is quite different, very different energy, a very different feel. Yeah, there's certain things that are recurrent themes, like To Kill a Mastermind is another one with super dense production design and really rich sets, and the way that he would do, like Shaun mentioned, his dolly shots, like massive ensemble cast in To Kill a Mastermind, these beautiful dolly in shots on like a room with like 12 dudes in it, and they're all like showcased, supposed kind of spectacularly. He was really, I think, all over it, and apparently a lot in the choreography too, as we kind of said a bit earlier. So I think It's a really one of the better examples of the Shaw's horror. I think there's maybe other better straight martial arts movies, but rarely have the two ever come together so nicely.
Yeah, I think
Sean, what was your take on it?
I love the film. I think it's fantastic. I'm not saying it's in my top, Shaw list, just because for me that's a difficult list to get into, and it doesn't quite make it. But I love this film. I do think it's probably Lolay's film, best film for me personally, and this is one of the few films. I always appreciate filmmaking in general, but for some odd reason, I feel like this film is a step up from a lot of the filmmaking done in other films that I love. I feel like this is a more refined film in general as far as Shaw Brothers go. And Sung Chung is very, very impressive as a director, and it's made me want to revisit a lot more of his other films. I do want to watch The Avenging Eagle again. I think I have the German Blu-ray of that somewhere.
Just wait for a month, dude. It looks so good on the show.
That's what I think I'm gonna do. I did watch To Kill a Mastermind, which of course is incredible. I loved everything about that. But
I have that thanks to you, Sean. I have it in my watch pile. Thanks to you. Thanks again for that.
Yeah, no problem.
My prediction, just before we go too far off To Kill a Mastermind, I said to Jason a couple of days ago that my prediction ahead of time, and I'm putting it out publicly because hopefully this will air before you get a chance to watch it, is I think you're going to enjoy that more than Five Venoms. Which is
wow, I'm not doubting you. I'm not doubting because two things. We'll go back to you, Sean, in a second. But Flip had said that Sun Chung was his favorite director of Shaw Brothers. So, and I respect his opinion. We all love Flip. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, cool. I only really know Avenging Eagle because I'm on this Chang Che and Lau Kar-Lung train. So I saw this. My mind was blown. You saying that this could be Five Venoms, which isn't my favorite Venom mob film.
Yeah, that's kind of why I think it will take the lead from it.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, I get a lot of heat on that. Everyone's like, "What?" But anyway, yeah, Sean, we were saying though.
Speaking of the Venoms, I love the fact that I'm going to word it in a way that probably isn't true, but it felt like this a little bit. So I was watching the film, and I love how it feels like. Sun Chung is directing the film and everything's going smoothly and everything's going wonderfully. He's making his, an incredible masterpiece of a horror kung fu hybrid. And it feels like halfway through the film, he goes, I'm going to need an extra fight. Let's bring in Lo Mang. And they just bring in Lo Mang. Let's just throw my audience a few extra fight scenes. But it's so great that Lo Mang appears. He has like 2 fight sequences, and those weapons he uses are so unique and so interesting. And of course, Chang Kwan-tai using the fans. I love that stuff. I love it. So I
break it into different rounds with a different colored fan each time.
Exactly. Yeah. I think this is it may not be one of my favorite Shaw Brothers films. I just feel like it is one of the most pleasing Shaw Brothers films. And I mean that in terms of horror fans, wuxia fans, drama fans, straight up kung fu fans. I think it has something for everyone, and I think audiences in general can sit and I think, if I remember correctly, I did a podcast on this film, and if I remember correctly, I think my wife really enjoyed it. And she's kind of hit and miss when it comes to Shaw Brothers. But I think she really enjoyed this one, and that's what I think the kind of selling point is on this film. I think it has something for everyone, and I think if more people set their eyes on it, they would really enjoy it.
Yeah, I wanted to add usually on Venom films, it needs 3 Venoms in it to be considered a Venom film. We were one short. I could have had this on my Venom mob list, Have you guys ever noticed, when Venoms left, the main guys they pushed at Shaw Brothers were Chen Kwan-tai, Lo Mang, and Sun Chen. Not the main, but one of the main people. Because if you watch a lot of his later wuxia, it's usually Sun Chen and Chen Kwan-tai, Lo Mang, and mixing them up. They kind of brought, this isn't just a one-off of them. They're in a lot of those later 1984 and 85 Shaw Brothers ones. Chen Kwan-tai's which is great. And I've not seen all of them. Sometimes I'll dip into my movies I have ripped, or I'll go to YouTube. Do want to get a fight scene to put on Instagram? And I was like, oh, I got to go watch this. So I'm like, wow, it's Chen Kwan-tai and Sun Chen again, which is cool. And it makes me realize Sun Chen, he might be the best Venoms actor, because they're not known for being were you thinking that too, Sean?
I think Sun Chen has a very specific star quality to him.
I think he exudes some kind of like star quality, and I feel
it's Bruce Lee-esque. It's Bruce Lee-esque.
Yes, and I think if he would have been given more leading roles, I think he could have absolutely shined.
Yeah, well, Chang-Chi used him as
he's so good
foil.
in Chinatown Kid. He gets to he doesn't really do much action in Chinatown Kid, but he really dramatically, he kind of carries that movie. He's kind of ultimately he's the motivation for what ends up kind of going down with Fu Shang. Really,
he's great.
And
Chang-Chi used him as the foil often. He had that smile, so he was good at getting on the side of the Venoms and then, kicking them with a blade in the stomach and everything, on the Venoms, I love them to death. Obviously, we all do. I do think Liu Fang is probably the least of the actors. He's really good, as a villain, but when he has to play a good guy, he still kind of looks like a villain to me. It's not that big. It's not. It's not that big of a change. Like Sun Chen, what I said, Bruce Lee, he has that star quality smile to him. Like he smiles and you it disarms you. Then when he becomes the villain in a lot of the movies, it's that twist. Sometimes when Liu Fang is just talking, and it's of course in a different, it's in Chinese, but I start to glaze over sometimes, the dialogue when Liu Fang's just talking. And I love him. I mean, he's awesome. His fighting and everything. I think Sun Chen and Chang Sheng probably. I think they're probably the two best actors out of the Venoms. I think that's why maybe
the two most charismatic, maybe. But
right.
But I think Lo Meng's up there too, because I think.
Oh right,
Lo
good
Meng,
point. Yeah, good point.
And Lo Meng, different sort of energy, and I find with Lo Meng they kind of literally did almost they Clark Kent him, right? So when he's got no beard, he's usually good. When he's got a beard, he's generally morally ambiguous or kind of on the more villainous side. But I think he, particularly in post Shaw's years, when he would start doing stuff he's in Ebola syndrome as a non kind of action
crazy
actor.
Role in Ebola syndrome.
But he's pretty solid, and I think he had so much. Maybe it's better to say that Lo Meng's always Lo Meng, even when he's a villain or he's good. His innate nature and charm, just as a normal human. Because when you see him being interviewed, and he does those little clips where he's like, "Hello, American people," and he's super happy to still speak. He's just really fucking charming. And I think there was the interview in, what did we see him in recently, in the Bruceploitation documentary, right? He was so full of life and so full of admiration for that period of his life. And I think that shines through his performances, where with Sun Shang and with Chen Xiang, they were more able to sort of transform a little bit more into whichever role they were playing,
right?
And so they would be given slightly more sort of twisty stuff to do. And there's that great one where there's the one when Chen Xiang is given a little crazy mustache.
Yeah, Legend of the Fox. Legend of the Fox.
Yeah. And he's a little bit more on the darker side in that role, and he's so kind of out of his mind, insane, and crippled Avengers, and he could kind of do, but he could also kind of be charming, even though he was, because they always said he had the baby face and stuff, and but he never really got the girl, and they never really kind of used him.
It was kind of like the Beatlemania. All the fans called him Cutie Pie. That was his nickname. Yeah. It was kind of like a.
My problem with Chang Sheng is, as far as a fighter goes, I feel like they lean far too hard on his acrobatics. They never really showed off his good hand-to-hand, or occasionally he'll have a weapons fight, which is very impressive. But his hand-to-hand stuff, they didn't really lean that hard towards that with him. Chang Sheng is always more of a... this isn't the best word, but he's more of a dodger to me. Someone comes at him, he dodges by flipping and jumping.
Taunting.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't really... I don't know... He's not as hard hitting as Lo Meng, for example, who obviously and even in Kwok Choi. I don't know. There's something that irks me about the fact that they leaned on his acrobatics so hard, and he's amazing at acrobatics.
Have you seen Shanghai 13?
Oh yeah,
Because I know he choreographed that too, and I think he does a little bit. He's a bit more grounded because he's a little bit older.
Yes.
But also he does every single fight scene with a cigarette hanging in his mouth, which I fucking love. He just spends goes through the whole movie just smoking in that kind of white outfit. But I think you're definitely not wrong. I think he was the tumbler and the acrobat of the squad.
Well, that's why they killed Lo Meng a lot, because they wanted to have the last fight be the three of them. They killed off Lo Meng because they wanted it, because those were the Peking opera guys, Liu Fang, Kwok Choi, and Chang Sheng. So that's why, Lo Meng never makes it in those movies to the end, rarely ever.
He was the only one from Hong Kong, wasn't he? He was the only one natively from Hong Kong.
Yeah, I guess he used to practice his mantis like in a yard. He was like a business guy, and one of either Chang-Chi himself or one of Chang-Chi's assistants saw him like in a yard doing the mantis style, so they brought him in. And which is interesting. I think he had the star quality so much that when you listen to those Linda Chu, she got brought in a different way. But Shaw Brothers reminds me of Abbey Road Studios. Like I love the Beatles so much. It seems at Abbey Road, they have all these rules. Like the Beatles would try to break them. They had a microphone. It had to be this far from the amp. And John Lennon's like, no, come on, we sold so many records. We're putting it closer, and it created feedback and stuff. When I hear about Shaw Brothers, I feel like these rules, like a guy would want to be like a star, and they usually had to work him through. You have to do this certain amount of movies before you know. So it's interesting when you see Linda Chu say, oh, I was just sitting there, Mona Fong. She had, was it Sun Chung or one of them came, or no, the other director they mentioned a few times.
Lee Hansen.
Yeah. Like she got kind of like fast tracked into it a bit, and Lo Mang, they brought him fast tracked, but it seems like even like Chang Sheng, when they saw them he saw them, what was it? Not Marco Polo. It was on Shaolin Temple, that period. They saw it. But they still had them have to go through the full Shaw Brothers training and all that stuff. It's very kind of conveyor belt. It worked, obviously, but it isn't that type of US thing where it's like, hey, I like how you look. We're going to give you a line. Come here. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like you could kind of just hop in and have like lines in the movie suddenly because the director caught your eye or you caught the director's eye. It seemed very formal. And I like to hear when the rules were broken a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Speaking of acrobatics for a second, and to tie it a little bit to Human Lanterns, did anyone notice that in the final fight, I think it's Lao Wing, I might be wrong, there's a moment where someone tries to do a kip up and completely fails.
No, I gotta rewatch that.
They left it in the film. Wow. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe he's meant to do whatever he does, but it looks very odd that he goes for a kip up and kind of just lands on his back again, and it just doesn't look right. And it was a bizarre moment where I was just like, "What the hell just happened? Was that?"
I got to rewatch it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I caught more of those when I was doing that 1978 film. I just wanted to grab a little bit of Gordon Liu when he's going against. He just passed away. Hoi Song, what's his full name? Lee Hoi Song. Yeah, and he's practicing, or it might not. Yeah, I think it is that fight. Yeah, he's practicing
from 36 Chambers.
Yeah, so when he's like trying to beat the butterfly swords, he does this spin around, and right before he does it, he like completely almost eats dirt, like he slips, and they left it in. I was like, wow, it's like a bloopers thing almost. You think, but. Yeah, you do catch those a lot in some of these movies. There's a Venoms movie where a guy gets hit in Two Champions of Shaolin, this water sprays out, and everyone guesses what that is. If it's brain matter or something, it's so odd. Like I think it was supposed to be blood, and they forgot to change the color or something.
Quite possibly,
yeah.
Speaking of, didn't you think that shot of Lo Lei, it was just a little bit of a shame how fake the blood looked in that shot? Maybe it's when he got cut in his forehead. Like, because the blood sometimes does look more theatrical. It's like, man, the lighting of it being outside and this 88 films restoration so good is like, man, that looks like theater blood and not like that dark real blood, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Shaw's blood always had a particularly kind of slightly kind of campy quality to it. Or maybe wrong to say campy, maybe better to say Hammer quality to it. Because the Blood and Hammer movies is kind of the same too.
I think during that time, blood was the same across the board. You watch Lone Wolf and Cub, the blood is bright red. And if you look, even Giallo films from like Lucio Fulci or someone like that, the blood is kind of over the top red and not quite realistic. So I don't know what it was, but you know, it kind of has a novelty to it that I kind of like. You know, it's just it's vibrant. It adds a vibrancy to a death scene. So I kind of.
I think it was masked. I think it was masked in the VHS years. They like blended in better. Because do you remember when it went to Celestial? That's when I started seeing the frames in the blue sky in the background. Like there's a part Chang Sheng's on the roof, and you could see the seam. Of the building, all that stuff was kind of masked, you know, and the blood in the VHS.
Notice an awful lot of the wires too.
A lot of the wires.
Oh yeah, and the hair. You remember they put
the hairline,
glue on the sideburns and stuff.
But that's the curse, isn't it? It's a gift and a curse that we're going to get these films on Blu-ray and some of them even on 4K. But the clearer the picture gets, we're all like, oh, amazing! Look how crisp this looks. But the more crazy shit you see, where it's just like, oh, I'm seeing wires all over the place. Some of these Jet Li films, I'm scared to watch Tai Chi Master 4K. Because that film has wires all over it, so I wonder how many I'm going to see.
That's my favorite Jet Li movie. It's Warriors, or what's the original name? Twin Warriors.
Twin Warriors.
Yeah.
Film.
When I saw that was like, because I'm always the old 70s, 80s. That was the 90s movie with him and Michelle Yeoh. I was like, wow. I was like, it's almost a little too undercranked for my liking, because that one's really undercranked. I don't know if you've seen that in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, it's like
crazy.
But that's what gets me nervous when I heard you guys talk about the frenetic camera work in these newer movies. I think I can dig on it though. It's a mixture of like way undercranked and way shaky sometimes. It feels very far away from seeing the Venoms with Chang-Chi possibly sleeping and having to do like those long takes. But but I'd be honest, Dragon, you getting me into John Wick. That has a lot of more frenetic. I was like, no, it helps. It gives like a different element to it. Gets you more in the fight.
I think so long as what you're filming is competently staged. And I think that was where sometimes some of the criticism that was leveled at Bourne, even though I think Matt Damon did do quite a bit of work and got himself in a lot of shape, it wasn't choreographed in the way that we think of things as being choreographed.
Oh, right.
And so Bourne was notoriously, I think the first one not so much, but as the series progressed, it was the one that always got the worst accusation of if they didn't really know how they wanted the fight to go down, they would literally just shoot at the camera, right? To kind of try and make it.
And they were like 2 feet away. They were like 2 feet away was part of the problem. It felt like it was an elevator fight, and it's like I bet you Matt Damon trained more than they should have gave him a little bit to show it off a little more. I thought, you know?
a little bit of distance, but I think same thing. Because I mean, you've got a whole journey to go down, and we'll get onto that in a second. But let's bring Lanterns home.
Sure.
The guys like kind of final thoughts. I think obviously we're all endorsing and recommending that people should absolutely check out the movie. I'm sure if people are listening to us shoot the shit about it, I certainly hope they've seen it. If they haven't, I think you'll still get a lot from the movie, even though we've spoiled the absolute shit out of all the beats of it. Still watch it, because I think it's still available from 88 Films.
On Amazon US. I got it for $20 next day delivery, but it doesn't have any of the posters or frills on it. No slip cover.
And if you're hesitating over watching Human Lanterns, I'll just tell you to do this. Just look at the front cover of the 88 Films release. It's got so much going on, and it all looks amazing. It's got nudity, it's got weapons, it's got creepy people in masks, it's got blood. It's just just look at the cover, and I guarantee it'll sell it. And it's
because every single one of those beats is in there. Bob's a master, right? I think right down to the lightning strike in the top corner, because they do use lightning an awful lot. They do, and it's also one of the rare shows that actually gets out and away from the studio a little bit. We get some outside location stuff.
That's really a Sun Chung.
He does that with Eagle. He does that with Avenging Eagle, right? He likes the outdoors. Good for him.
That's so refreshing. And I'm running out of time a little bit. I was saying, but that's the thing about it. When I said Abbey Road, there's these parameters to the Shaw Brothers. Like the Bruceploitation, they can go like probably without they didn't have a license to it. They'll go down into Chinatown and be filming all this stuff. You don't know what it's going to do. You can feel kind of like the parameters a bit. Sung Chung pushed that to the edge. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a video game system where later in the life of the system, you get the best games. It's like Sun Chung. I don't know. That's what I'll say to people. If you like cinematography, so dense, like Dragon said, amazing cinematography. The drama, it starts out as a drama, a little bit of a wuxia feel. Then the horror comes in. And I'd say, even if you don't like Kung Fu movies, this could have, I don't know what would have happened at the end. Even if it didn't have Kung Fu, it could have been an amazing movie, It was that good. It could have
been played dramatically for the whole thing, totally.
And that's the base. So you throw in this great fighting that, like, when it comes like, oh yeah, it's a Kung Fu movie. It seems really late when the Kung Fu comes in, right? Like a real fight, if you So I think my last thing is, if you like Kung Fu, if you like good drama, if you love amazing Shaw Brothers sets and good horror, it has it all. Go watch Human Lanterns.
And it's a morality tale.
Oh, of course. That's the biggest takeaway. Yeah.
It's got a moral to it. Just don't be a rich dickhead, basically.
Yeah, that's the one flaw. When Tony Liu went to Lole, I think they could have made that. It was like strange that he like. I thought there should have been a little more dialogue there. I was like, wow, like he cut his head and ruined his entire life. He's like, come on, like I don't know, that part it worked. That was a little bit like unrealistic maybe, but it worked really well. I just thought that scene maybe needed a little more. I'm surprised that Tony Liu was like, oh, this will be fine.
Well, I think it was his arrogance and his ego, because he won the fight. So technically he had more face and he had like the more kind of power in his mind in that dynamic.
Right.
And he didn't know that Lole had been like basically spending his whole time learning demon crazed style, right?
Were you guys surprised it didn't go to the lantern? I thought it was going to get to the lantern finale where they would show the lantern at the like showdown. I like that twist. Yeah, I thought it was going to get to that.
Yeah. I thought the lanterns would tie more into the end, but
no, I think
in the human lanterns
much more
were
of a MacGuffin.
Right. But the human lanterns were the ones, and did he actually mimic each character that he killed and put their faces in the lantern?
I thought so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. They didn't showcase the skin as much. I thought it'd be more like a square, you'd see the skin, but it's kind of like
a stretched face. Or
Yeah.
No, I'm kind of glad they didn't go down that way, because there was the other, like, my favorite lantern element in it, which we haven't mentioned, is the fight inside the restaurant, when again it's like a straight up power move by both guys, where because Sun Cheng shows up and is literally like, you can't fight in here, you're disrupting people.
Yeah.
And he's like, food and drinks are on me, right? So then everyone's all automatically on board, and Sun Chen can't say shit, and he's like, and I'll pay for all damages. And then there's that great little back and forth.
Yeah,
I
know why you like that, Dragon. You like that?
I love it.
It's Dirty Ho-esque. It's like
a little bit.
It is a little bit.
Yeah, because it's like they're stifled, and it involves. I don't know. I don't know how to pinpoint. I can tell you like sophisticated, like hidden kung fu. I don't know. I have to get it better.
Not always hidden, but no, I think I didn't even make that connection. But yeah, I think you're right. I think part of it is just I like the way that the kind of story beats work, because I think it's always. I mean, we've all seen loads and loads of really great action, but action without context can tend to be a little bit. Dull over time,
no,
right?
I know.
It's
like a guitar
solo. By character. Yeah,
a guitar solo is only as good as the song.
Totally,
yeah.
and I think
it ties into their arrogance perfectly. They're just,
completely,
and it broadens their character development, because look, they turn around, they're like, well, we can practice martial arts in public, like they're not actually fighting. I just think it's a beautiful piece of like arrogance, and it works perfectly within the confines of the film, because it's just like, oh, I get it. These characters are just not good people, and just believe that they are the shit, essentially.
And it even has it's got a super goofy move when he jumps up and wraps his leg around the kind of the chain that's holding up the lantern.
What was that?
Just weird, like in terms of, it's just because there's obviously wires holding him up at the other side, but somehow it kind of works. Like although it's sort of goofy, and he's just sort of using it to ultimately try and pour wine on Chen Kuan-tai's head. And
it felt like a Sun Chung element. That's like his twist. Like that felt. I don't know too much about him yet. I can't wait to dive into more. But that felt Sun Chung-esque. Like him, because he likes to slow things down in the important moments, and it's like maybe that's like, because I've noticed he has a lot of slow-mo, of slow-mo at the big moments in Avenging Eagle and in whenever Chen Kuan-tai does punches, but he keeps the slow-mo going for a while,
Oh, he directed he directed The Deadly Breaking Sword and The Kung Fu Instructor, which comes out
I've seen
month now.
Yes. T Lung, that's a great one. Killer fights.
It is a very good film. And The Deadly Breaking Sword does not get mentioned enough. It's really, really good.
I saw it so long
recently. Ago. It's so good. It's so good.
I gotta see that.
I reckon. I hope it gets some kind of Blu-ray release at some point.
I got those old DVDs. Remember those old DVDs? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Was that Media
it's on one of the Shout. It's on one of the Shout ones, I think.
Oh,
maybe
is
not.
it? Okay.
Maybe not. I have to check. I think it's on one of the Shout Factory newer ones, Deadly Breaking Sword. I'll have to double check.
Okay, I don't have them all yet.
They came out so thick and fast that it's really hard for me to remember which is on which one. Which is not a wonderful thing for us to be complaining about. Like
first world problems, as they say.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Do you remember those old Sword Masters?
Yes.
Yeah. I would watch them to death, but some of them, like Battle Wizard and Deadly Breaking Sword, I never saw Battle Wizard yet. It was one of the ones. I know there's some like lasers in it, and always been on my back burner. I have a lot of Shaws I own. I've got to get to, and it's fun to have that because you don't have to buy a ton of stuff. You have it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well done, gentlemen. That is just over an hour, I think. And I think thank you, everybody, for joining us. Gentlemen, thank you again for taking the time to sit down.
Thank you, guys.
Always a pleasure. Always.
I think this time we should maybe all leave a comment underneath and make a suggestion for what should we do the next time that we sit down and do this when we get together. Doesn't have to necessarily be a Shaw's film, but it's the easiest way to get us all together at the same time in the same place with the most enthusiasm if you do go down that Shaw's route. But it's not mandatory, so I'd be intrigued to know what people would like to hear us shoot the shit about, because it's a blast doing this, guys. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, guys.
Always. Yeah, thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye from me.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye from them.